And everybody should see here from the Speco's best practices recorder checklist, everything that I just went over. Now, in this webinar, we're going to be working off of I have factory defaulted our new 16 channel NRD recorder, which is our dual NIC recorder. And what we have done, we have started from just like you would see it if you've unboxed the unit. So we're going to go through the first 3 or 4 steps here. Set up username and password, go through the Easy Wizard setup, and make sure recorder is online with a success for the NAT page. Just let me switch over to the camera here. Grab my mouse. So the page that you're seeing here, and as we're talking, if anybody has any questions, just come into the chat box here and drop them into the chat box, and I'll answer those as I see them come in, or if we take a little break here and there, we'll come to them as we get them. But when we come to the admin setup, it's important to remember that Speco recorders do not give you a default password. There's no admin 1234, admin 1111. It is, you have to create a password. So in the I'm going to come here and create a password. Let's see if I can do something. And you'll see there that it must match the pattern lock here, 8 to 16 characters, and contain numbers, lowercase, uppercase letters, symbols of 3 or more. So I'm going to make up a password here. Passwords must match. All right, so we can display those passwords. We want them to be seen. We can select the login automatically. I would always recommend while you're working on the unit there to log in automatically. So that way, every time you walk away from the recorder, come back, you don't have to enter that password in or ask that user for that password. Also, you can enable the pattern lock, which allows you to be able to do a pattern in the recorder. You must input it twice the same way for it to save. Once we do that, we can select next, and we have now put in our username and password into the recorder. Yes, this is being recorded, and yes, everybody that is registered for this webinar will receive a recording after this webinar. So you can also do security questions too, where we can ask a question and then type an answer and enter it if you want another form of backing up that password. The next screen we come through in the Easy Wizard is going to be the disk settings, and you're going to see the hard drive that we have installed here. I always recommend formatting that hard drive. So you'd format the hard drive. Once it's complete, select next. What we're looking for is this green check mark here. Oops. So that's going to be the admin setup process. Now we come into the easy setup. So under the easy setup, this looks, this is working off of the new NRD 16 channel dual NIC. So we're going to see a little bit different here is that we have multiple address settings. We have a little bit different options because we have the dual NIC attached and not the PoE ports. But essentially it's the same. What we see over here on the left here is our Ethernet port 1. It's telling me that it's online, which is saying that I have a network cable plugged into it and it is receiving data. Now, most people are going to utilize our QR code setup. So if we want to utilize our QR code setup, the only box that we have to have selected is this obtain an IP address automatically, which is going to use the DHCP server. So we'll have this selected. Now, Ethernet port 2 is going to be my camera port, and it's offline because I don't have anything plugged into the back of it. I don't have a switch plugged in. But if we're doing a changeover on an existing system and there was already IP cameras on that network, one way to think smarter instead of harder is find out what scheme those cameras are running on. So if it was a .192.168.50 scheme, then I'd want to come over here and change my DHCP range to be on that 50 scheme that the cameras were already on. So that way, when I'm doing a changeover, my cameras are going to match my my secondary NIC card is going to be set to the same DHCP range as the existing cameras. So then it'll be more of a automatic recognition instead of having to go into each camera manually and switch them to match what range was in here by default. Now, if we had it just plugged into a switch, we can obtain IP addresses automatically if we wanted to be utilizing Speco cameras. But for the sake of getting it online, the only thing that needs to be selected is this obtain an IP address automatically. The next screen we come to is the universal PNP and then also the DDNS. So it doesn't matter if these are selected or not. The obtain an IP address automatically is going to supersede. But you'll see here that if we are utilizing the UPnP, then we're going to be forwarding these ports to the internal IP address, and then we can test those just like a port checker tool. If we're utilizing the DDNS service and not either of the UMP or the QR code setup, we would either need to use a Speco DDNS or a noip.com DDNS. But we're going to use the DHCP QR code setup, so nothing needs to be messed with. So under next, we're going to come to our add cameras. I don't have any cameras on this unit now, but I'll explain what you're going to see. On the bottom, if we had any cameras, so if this was one of Speco's plug and play units, you're going to see cameras down here on the bottom. These are all the plug and play units. It's going to tell you the IP camera, the address, the IP address, the protocol Speco, give you the ability of the status, online, offline, edit. For this particular camera, because it's this recorder, it's a dual NIC recorder, so I'm going to have my cameras out on the network. All my cameras are going to be up here on the top. And so I can see cameras that are on the scheme here and bring them in that way. And I'll show you on another recorder what those cameras look like. This was more just going through the initial setup process. The next step is our easy setup under easy record. And this is going to give you the access to Speco's multi-layers of recording. And you'll see by default, we're recording on continuous recording, which is our scheduled recording. And by default, we're recording on 24/7. And the reason why is because, we have the capabilities of recording at different frame rates per second under different streams and different, whether that's a motion event, sensor event, or AI. So we can utilize our storage space, but still giving you that full-time, you never miss anything 24/7 recording option. So we have continuous record, motion record. So motion record is just when motion is on the screen, and that's one of our check boxes here shortly. Sensor record. Sensor is if we have any sensors tied to the recorders as inputs. So if we had door contacts or door sensors or motion detectors out there tied to the system, that would be considered a sensor. And then we also have my favorite, which is the AI record, which we can actually turn all the other events off for the motion record and only get AI. So we would only be getting either a person, a motor vehicle, or a non-motor vehicle, which virtually eliminates the false alarm rate. So if we have a custom thing we wanted to do, we could always come in here to advanced. So if I work with a lot of video verification accounts where we don't want motion recording, we don't want sensor recording, we just want, if it's reporting or sending out an alarm output trigger, we just want to make sure it's a person vehicle or non-motor vehicle. A lot of times we'll just work with these two, continuous recording, so I don't miss anything, and then AI recording, because motion recording is a precursor of AI. So, and motion recording will not just show me a person or a motor vehicle. So if I get rid of motion recording, I'm able to just use AI. Or if I have a combination where just a few cameras are going to be utilizing AI specifically, and then the other cameras can still utilize motion. So we'll go through that when we're actually in the motion recording section. So the next step would be, this is the NAT page that we discussed on our best install practice. Now, the NAT page is what's going to give you the access to viewing this device online. It's connecting to our cloud server. Now you'll see there's two different options here. The first thing we want to make sure is that our NAT is selected. Once that is selected, you'll see here that we have a NAT 1.0 and a NAT 2.0. NAT 2.0 is the most recent NAT server that you want to use. This will allow you to utilize things like our Speco dashboard and also get full utilization out of the app. and just give you cloud updates down the road. So NAT 2.0 is what you want to be running, and you also want to make sure that you're running the newest 1.47 version firmware on all of your recorders that go out the door. So what do I see here? I see a QR code, and then I see a QR code number. So if that customer here doesn't have the app yet, then they can scan this QR code to get the Android app, or they can scan this QR code here to get the Apple app for Speco Blue. Once they download that app, you can go to add a device, and you can either enter this QR code number here, the username and password that we already set up, or you can just scan this QR code right here, and that one use the username and password that you set up to get access to the app. The next screen we see is a cloud upgrade. You just have to simply opt in to the cloud upgrade option, and this will tell you that this is what's giving you the ability to do cloud updates. So once we hit OK, you'll see that we have went past our Easy Wizard setup, and now we're into the recorder. So we had another question come through here on the chat. There we go. I think everybody should be able to see now. Okay. Let's see if our Q&A has any more responses. If a client is using only the Speco Blue app, is it and will not remote cloud upgrade, NAT 2.1 is okay, correct? That is okay. That is correct. If you're not wanting to utilize the dashboard or any of the cloud update features, then NAT 1.0 will still suffice. So if we go back here and we look at our checklist, and so we've set up the username and password, we've gone through the Easy Wizard setup, we've made sure the recorder is online with the success for the NAT page. And now I'm going to switch recorders. Give me 1 second here. All right, let's see when this pops up. Let's take this off. Switch that around. All right. So now for the other sections here of the webinar, we're going to switch over to just more of a live recorder. And we do have weather coming through, so if we have any network issues, I apologize. So the next thing we're going to do is make sure the recorder is online with the success for the NAT page. So what this is going to look like for you all to find this out is, let me switch my mouse. All right, so let's get into this recorder here. If we go into settings and we go into network, because the NAT page is a function of the network, and I go into NAT, this was the same page that we just saw under the Easy Wizard setup. So you'll see here that I see a NAT status as a success. So that's what we're referring to. Y'all have to excuse me, I'm recovering from a little bit of a sickness. All right, so we have made sure that we have a success for the NAT page. The next step would be name cameras under camera. You know, I can't speak enough on how important it is that when a customer buys a camera system, there's an inherent cost with that. And not only with that cost, you know, there's an association of it's a personal touch thing, and I spend a lot of money. So one of the biggest things that I preach on across the nation is when you are installing a system and you come to this point, you know, a customer isn't going to know what this, for instance, here, a camera that I haven't named here, this O2 TML PoE7. You know, a customer is not going to know what that is. So for me, I'm going to look at that camera. I know what it is. It is my garage door scanner. So I'm going to come in every time and I'm going to name those cameras for that customer. And one reason why I'm doing this is not only for the customer, but I'm doing it so when I'm working with the system downstream, it's also easier for me to know when I'm programming that I'm working with the garage door camera instead of POE 702 TML, because I've done this for a while and I still have problems remembering product numbers. So I can imagine as a technician out in the field, it's nearly impossible to remember our ever living long list of product lines. So, but now you'll see here when I'm looking at this camera, it's garage door. It is no longer, scan this over a little bit. Now I'm seeing it as garage door camera instead of that POE 702 TML. So spend the extra 4 or 5 minutes to come through, and whatever cameras you have named, it's easy. Just look at the camera, preview it. That's going to be my front yard here. So then we go to edit and we're going to name that camera front yard. And again, a lot of these are things that you might know, you guys might already be doing, and that's fine. But what this is a checklist that we came up with that as a whole across the nation, we feel that if these steps are followed by technicians, they'll understand more about what we have to offer. And not only that, but it'll reduce the amount of callbacks that you have and allow that customer to know more about their system. So name cameras under cameras, set up motion recording area. So we talked about motion in our different layers of recording. So under that same camera tab, if I come here to motion, you're going to see here that when I select a camera, I've got certain motion areas in here, right? So if I were just by all default, this is going to be my motion area. So what's going to happen is if I get motion on any, whether that's motion, for a motion event to occur, all that I need is pixel change on the screen. So that can be a fly going across it, very close to the screen. It can be a dog, a squirrel, it can be wind blowing. But what my motion area is if I clear that, I can come on here and say, okay, if I'm motion recording, let's just select the areas that are important on the screen. And that's what's going to help me utilize a little bit more hard drive space too. So if I'm utilizing motion recording, it's important to come through and make sure that you always apply that. And then I can switch to different cameras and see that I've already set certain areas that I want on each camera. There you go. Now, earlier I told you that if we're doing AI recording and we don't want motion recording to be setting off before the motion or the AI can be detected. If on this camera, if I was utilizing video analytics and I wanted to be doing notification or alarm outputs based off of a very high rate of success rate, I would actually want to come on here and turn this motion recording off on this camera and then set up the AI for people or vehicle detection. So going back down to our list, we set up the motion recording area, set event recording, continuous recording, and substream recordings. What are we talking about when we say this? It's a very good question, Daniel. Let me show you. So with us utilizing the different layers of recording, oops, let me save this. So if we go into record, it shows us the overview screen of how we're recording, continuous recording, motion recording, and AI. Over here to the left, you'll see that there's event recording settings, scheduled recording settings, and recording substreams. These are the 3 topics we were just talking about. So under event recording, and again, it's important too to name your cameras because now I know which cameras I'm working with and not guessing off model numbers. It's going to show me my stream type, the encode is doing, the resolution, my frames per second. So obviously you can see here that remaining bandwidth, we have plenty of bandwidth together. So now this is going to be we're on event recording settings. So event recordings are going to be any type of people, motion, any type of vehicle, any AI event, any type of event that happens based off something we have programmed in the recorder to look for. So what we want to do is when these events happen, this is one thing that I will recommend. You can raise your event frame rates per second a little bit higher. By default, I think we had it there on 15, right there on 15 frames per second. And this can change company to company, need to need. Some jobs might spec out We are giving you this just as a standard of this is where we would start at for your average install. But what this is going to do is help streamline and make your viewing platforms more seamless. And because a lot of times, the naked eye sees 12 frames per second. A lot of phones aren't able to utilize more than 8 to 10 to 12 frames per second. So there's a lot of leftover bandwidth that's just eating up storage space that's not going to be utilized unless you had some advanced features as far as zooming in on previously recording videos. So that's our event recording. Then we move over into scheduled recording. The scheduled recording is going to be the one that eats up the most of your hard drive space, because your scheduled recording is your 24/7 recording. So you're going to see the same type of information about that. So settings, and then you're going to come to frames per second. And this is where we say, take it from anywhere from 8 to 12 up to 15 max, or you could raise it depending on what your specs are. What we're going to do is this is just giving you more hard drive space and utilizing your bandwidth and a better resource. So then we're going to come into record substream. So this is our substream recording. All right. So anytime that we are viewing our substream, our recording in a substream viewing format from our phone. And again, since phones can only see 8 to 12 frames per second, by default, they're on 30. If you have a client that is using the CMS or is having problems with their app as far as lag, or if it's just slow, highly recommend coming into their network stream settings and also their record substreams and change this to 8 to 12 frames per second. That will greatly increase the fluency of their stream. I'm sorry, if you want to by default, by the way, guys, it's going to be on auto. If you want to change these capabilities, you have to go into manual, then change them that way. Not so much really need to mess with the resolution because it's already set into a substream resolution. But if you did need to dial that down even more, you can. So let's hop back over here to our checklist. Event recording, continuous recording, substream recordings. Now, network stream settings, this is important too, because if you utilize one of our CMS platforms or our connect.speakotech.cloud, when we are recording or our network, remember I said the word network, so it's going to be under network. We're going to see here under stream settings, network stream settings. So you'll see here that the stream type we're working with is our substream. By default, this is set on 30. So when it's set on 30, it's it really makes that bottleneck dependent upon the network of the user and if there's a bottleneck at the site. Excuse me, guys. So as a default, I like to take this down to 12 frames per second. And then that way I'm not so much concerned about what the processing power of the computer is that the customer is using, or if they're having problems with lag. If they're having problems with lag, come here to the network stream settings and change that setting. All right, let's go back to our checklist. Set up SMTP server if using email notifications. This is a question we get asked a lot. So if I'm in this recorder and I go into AI event and I'm setting up an AI event, like I said, I wanted to do that camera, I turned motion recording off. So I'm going to do, I'll do line crossing and table detection 24/7. So manage, let's see if I have a nighttime schedule on here. I'll just say I'm going to do 24/7. Detection target human, trigger mode. Now you're going to see here, let's say I wanted an email to happen. So I select the email box, I hit apply. Now, nothing's going to happen because even though I've selected the email option, I've not went into my network yet. And I might have on here, but I'm going to say by default, I haven't. Email. I haven't set up my SMTP server information. So if you want the email notification to work on any of the recorders, or if you want to use email, if you want it on the dashboard, if you want to get camera level notifications, you have to enter in SMTP server information there. What this looks like is, for those that aren't familiar with it, if you utilize our Speco dashboard, if you go into the user manual and you go to about page 64-ish, right here. So we actually give you SMTP server information, and to find that, it was under the dashboard, under that user manual. This is just to kind of show you an example. To when we're filling out this page right here, we give you this one. We give you this one with the dashboard. You can still use this one if you chose to, but most people have their own. You still have to enter in the SMTP server information to tell that recorder how to email out. So if you need more information on this, reach out to us or me, and we can do a little more information follow up on SMTP servers. But you must tell the recorder where you want to send out from. Tell you what, everybody, we're going to take about a 30-second break. I've got to grab some more water, then I'll be right back. All right, I apologize about that. Like I said, it's coming over with a little cough, a lot of talking gets to the throat. So we've covered, let's get back to our checklist here. So we went over the network stream settings. We set up the SMTP server if you're using email notifications. We want to talk a little bit more about that. Server name, so it's going to ask you for the server name, your email address that you're using to send out that email, the SMTP server. And a lot of your websites, you could Google SMTP servers, and it's going to give you some SMTP servers you can use if you have an email account set up with that particular host company. All right, so demo, playback, search, and export analytic analysis to customer. This is probably one of the most things too that gets pretty tedious is, if we're doing trainings and doing stuff, the most important thing you can do on site is show that user how to demo that system. And so we're going to show them how to demo live view playback. So I'm going to get out of this, and very easily I'm going to hit, you'll see here I've got search and export, and I've got playback. So if we select the playback feature, it's going to show us the cameras that we're working with that we see on the screen over here on our toolbar. We can go into display mode and select more cameras. So let that pull up. And then it's going to show us all of our recordings over here. So our blue recordings, you'll see here are scheduled recordings. That's blue. What's unique about Speco, we talk about the multiple layers of a recording, is we can select that box and I can pull off my scheduled recording. So now look how clean that is. So now all I've got is manual recordings, sensor recordings, motion recordings, and AI recordings. So you'll notice that because I have my motion zone program, that when I select motion, I'm probably going to see actual emotion or something happening in that event that was truly motion. Now I can come on even more and say, okay, let's get rid of motion, and let me scroll in a little bit lower here. And now you'll see that when we set up this event here just a few minutes ago, 427, when I set up this to only detect based off of AI, that's all I'm seeing now is based off of the AI event. So this is important to show the customer how, and if let's say something happened in the background of the screen, I didn't see it with the AI, I can still come here and go to my previous recordings to see what might have happened in the background. So again, from here, what we can do is we can look at different display modes. We can stop, fast forward, rewind faster. We can also do smart searching, which assuming motion detecting is turned on, which this particular camera, I just turned it off. So let's see if it lets me search for previously recorded. And it does not. That's why I would need to select a camera that actually does, like where I turn this motion recording off to only do analytic. If I had left that motion recording on, I can come into motion recording and actually box off an individual area. Let's just switch cameras and so now what I'm doing is just switching over to a camera that utilizes, I had motion recording on, so I can come over and say, okay, then this is why it's important to keep, if you do have motion recording on and scheduled record 24/7 recording, is I can come over and box off certain areas and say, show me when there was motion in that area. And you'll notice here that when I zoom in, now I select that area, I'm going to see motion only in that area. So this is great for parking lots. But again, if you don't show the customer how to use this, then obviously they'll never know about it. And it's a great feature they didn't know they had. You can also do the same thing with facial recognition, vehicle detection, attributes. If we wanted to export this, we could simply come over here to the toolbar. Oops, sorry. Right click. Here, I'm sorry. Okay, I just didn't grab it the first time hard enough. If I want to export, I'm just going to have to come down here and take my mouse and drag over the area I want. Select the export, exporting dog lot, and just select hit the export button. So very easily to do. And as you've seen, is I've taken a lot of recordings. I have limited what I want to see based off of my filters. And I've also used the smart search, and I can find about anything I want doing those two things relatively fast on any camera system from Speco. So that's going to be basically what you want to show and demo from the playback feature. And so the next one will be search and export. So search and export is going to give you more features that are just more different options, because different people, different strokes, different folks, right? So everybody likes something different. And so we offer the easy search. Easy search. Easy search breaks down into days. So we're looking at 6766 in the cameras, and then by the hour. So I'm going to select the camera. It's going to break it down into the hour for me. So if I wanted to see a parking lot when a car came or when a box was removed, I'm able to see the full day broken into hours, keep selecting. It's going to show me the video of that time frame. So now I'm down into minutes. I can select that minute, watch that video, fast forward, rewind it. And you'll see that as I'm over here, I'll move this box. Let me see if I can move this right here. I can export right here if I want this, or I can go into playback of that individual scene. But as I keep selecting down to the minute, it's going to take me into playback of that time that I see. Let's exit back out of that. So that's a little bit about easy search. So if we get back into the original easy search camera thumbnails, we can search based off of time or based off of camera too. And then the time search is going to be just like we went through on playback. We're going to tell it which cameras we want to grab here. And then you'll see that we came in on the timeline, and we can come through and filter again based off what we want. And then it's going to take you into the playback. So event search is going to be any event that we have set up. So if we want to know what events happened for that camera, we would hit search. It's going to show me all my motion events. I can see the duration. I can hit playback. Let's see if we can go into something during the daytime. And then if this is the event we wanted, we would just hit the select button and then export it out right here. Or hit export here as well. Oops. It's going back. So we went through event search. Bookmarks are going to be if we select any, if we make any bookmarks. Snapshots are going to be when we select our AI event. Snapshot is one of the export options as far as the trigger results. And that's going to be based on, it's just going to be a snapshot of the event that occurred. So where that happens is so under trigger mode, under any analytic, when you see snapshot right here, that's where your snapshots are saved. And a neat little installer tidbit and dealer tidbit, if you come over here to advanced, if we put a SD card in that camera, then if we select this advanced, then if we select original picture and target picture, what we just saw there, that snapshot will be saved to the SD card on the camera as well as the recorder. So if somebody were to steal the recorder, it's just a redundant way of storage to say, okay, we have a backup on the camera as well too. All right, so moving on here, we got download app to customers' phones. So we have showed you on the recorder, and I'll show you again if you do not have the Speco Blue app, or that customer does not have the Speco Blue app. We come over to our NAP page. No client yet. Click the download. You can download the Apple Speco Blue app, or you can download the Android Speco Blue app here. And it's important too, once you download it on their phone, we're going to take you through the demo process. We won't be demoing that today due to time, but I'll show you the resource here. So demo app to customer. So if you are not familiar with the Speco Blue app, or you want to know more on how to demo that correctly to your product or to your customer, I'm going to reference you to our specotech.com website. We're going to go to Learning Center. We're going to go to view our previously recorded webinars. You're going to enter your information here. That's a fake number for anybody that's wondering. There's me. Hi, everybody. So what this resource is here for you is all of the trainings and these webinars. This webinar will be up on this page too shortly. But this particular one, we're looking to utilize the Speco Blue app. So I would scroll down to use Speco Blue app like a pro. So if you watch this, you will be pro certified for me. No, but it's going to really get you in a good place of understanding the app, understanding what it does. And if you want to send that out to a customer, hit that share and either copy the link, drop it into your email, and send it out to somebody too. There's no PowerPoints. It's us taking a live look at the app straight from screen capturing. But also, there's more webinars here from the dashboard, our VMS platform, our digital deterrent solutions. We just did one of these, which integrated our DD1, DD2s, also some of our digital turret dome cameras. So if you want to know more about facial recognition and detection, installer specials, speeding up installs, a little bit like this one, cloud solutions, license plate recognition. This takes you to setting up live straight from a recorder, remoting into a few different solutions. So these are available too at your discretion. That's where you're going to go to get a little bit more information if you need to see more on the app. So log recorder information, QR code, username, and password. And I see we have a question in here. If you looked at 3:06 p.m. example, would the NVR make and save 3 clips to the HD hard drive? Scheduled recording motion AI. I mean, let's take up more sports statement motion. It's a really good question. And I get that answer that a lot. And the answer is no. What it's doing is it's utilizing the continuous recording and then taking metadata and then dropping in basically a hyperlink to the system that says, here's where this is when they look for that. So really the only thing that's taking up your storage space is going to be your scheduled recording. Now, if you are doing like an event recording at a higher frames per second, when that event occurs, it's obviously going to save that specific event at that frames per second, which will slightly raise up your recording time, but not significant enough to where and snapshots and all this metadata is saved. It's kilobytes of information, so it's pretty minute. Well, that's a very good question. How do we get to that website with the webinars? Very good question. So if we want to get to the website with the webinars, we're going to go to speecotech.com. We're going to go to speecotech.com. We're going to go to Learning Center and view our previously recorded webinars. And we're going to go to fill out this page right here. And then it's going to take you right to that. It's going to take you right to here. Now, another resource too that you might not be familiar with, we've recently added, is you can come over here to support, tech support training, and you can now schedule a meeting with Tim O'Brien, who's our technical support manager, myself, the national sales trainer, and Justin Taylor, which is our product manager. So you can now schedule a meeting if you're having any type of higher end tech support problem, if you're having just a system design thing you want to discuss, or if you want to dive in a little deeper at anything we're covering, you can do this now, and it links up with our calendars and lets you drop the time in that you want to select that webinar. Also, here's another link here to the webinars if you want to find them that way as well. So now let's see if we can't get finished up with the checklist here. So log information, QR code, username, and password. Obviously, the username and password is what you would set up into it. But what I'm going to do, a few different things that are important here is system. If I go into basic, this is going to give me the basic information. And remember, the house name, whenever we name this camera system, that's what's going to scroll downstream through the dashboard. So if we want our dashboard to actually show the name of the recorder, like house and not just recorder 1, it's important to name those devices out in the field. But you'll see here, if I hit about this machine right here, this is going to give me almost everything that I need to know. It's going to show me what firmware version I'm running here. So this is one thing that I would recommend scanning in or taking a picture of and attaching it to a truck log. And then the second would be that NAT page under network. This page right here to show that you do have a success. Here's the QR code. But more importantly, this QR code number down here at the bottom is going to be what you will use to enter in to access that device. When utilizing analytics, review these steps: set line crossing, intrusion for people, vehicle detection, set facial detection, set LPR, facial recognition for license plate and or facial recognition. So I'm just going to show you what this looks like. If you want to know more about how to set these things up, then you'll want to watch the webinar. There's a webinar on all 3 of those on there, but if we go into the recorder, so to see what these look like, we're going to utilize our intelligent analytics. And so any face detection, we'll just search for that today. So it's going to show us faces that we detected on the system, on human bodies. And face detection is just literally clicking 2 clicks. Human body is setting up line crossing or intrusion, and then we get human bodies, right? So then we can say, is that the person we're looking for? Nope. Is that the person? Nope. But it makes it to where we don't have to do so much playback features. So today is more about introducing these to you and making this checklist and saying, is this something that the customer is going to be expecting? If I have vehicle, I don't have anything turned on this one. Let's see if we can search for this past month, see if I had anything turned on then. No, I didn't. But if we had vehicle detection turned on, then real easy, vehicles are going to pull in as well too. But we can also look at attributes using colors, types, brands. We can get very specific on what we're looking for. But what we're talking about on this checklist is saying, okay, am I setting up line crossing or intrusion for people or vehicle detection for this customer? If I am, let me program them. So we've got some few extra time here, so we can say, okay, if I'm setting up the programming of the line crossing, then it was easy to go into settings, AI event, people and vehicle detection, select the camera we want. Oops. I'm trying to find camera I'm looking for. I will just say that we're working with this camera here. And if I wanted to set up line crossing or intrusion, which I already have intrusion set up, you'll see I've boxed off an area. You have to have this IP enable detection by IP turned on. I boxed off the area, schedule 24/7, cross that area. I can draw up the 4 lines, and then I tell it, am I detection target? Am I looking for a human, a motor vehicle, or a non-motor vehicle? And then trigger mode, what I want to happen: snapshot, push notification, buzzer, pop-up video, or email. So any of these features that I can turn on very easily, which allow me to utilize face detection. So if I'm working with a camera and I don't want to dive, facial recognition is easy to use, but not, it's used in the right environment. But a lot of customers will want face detection. So if I want face detection turned on this camera, all I got to do is select detection, enable that feature, select my schedule 24/7. So as long as my range is small space will be is this minimum, that maximum, I'm fine. If I need to change that, I can change that here in min max. If I wanted to draw a custom area to detect faces, I just hit apply. It's telling me only one analytic can be turned on at a time, and that's okay. And then I come into trigger mode and say what I want to happen. Snapshot, push notification to the app, buzzer from the recorder, pop-up video to the recorder, an email notification, assuming we have our SMTP server information entered. So now we'll just hit apply. And now that's how easy I turned on facial detection. So when that customer says, okay, I want facial detection turned on, we can come in and say, okay, we set line crossing for people or vehicle detection, or we set facial detection. And also, so if you're doing any type of LPR, license plate recognition, or facial recognition, if you're not familiar with that from Speco, watch the webinar on the training for setting that up, or reach out to me and I can do some personalized training with you. That is a step that you need to go through. If you are setting it up for that customer, make sure you set it up correctly, or make sure you set it up, period. And then train them on how to go back and do playback for that. So optional steps, how are they going to view this off site? Is that going to be from our CMS platform? And if they're going to utilize our CMS platform, all you have to do is go to our Speco Tech page, come here to SecureGuard CMS, and here you'll see both versions for Windows and Apple Mac, or Mac, I guess would be the right way to say it. So SecureGuard CMS for Windows, SecureGuard for Mac. It's going to ask you to enter in your information here. Always enter in your information, and you'll submit, and you're going to get an email download. That email download is going to download our CMS platform for you. And again, if you want to be more familiar with the CMS platform, if you follow the webinars, we've done a webinar on the CMS platform as well too. So back to the page, we've said CMS. If you want to utilize connect.specotech.cloud to access that recorder, it's as easy as coming to your toolbar here, going to connect.specotech.cloud. I'm not sure which recorder this is. Enter in the QR code number that we talked about that is on your network. And then under NAT. So we're going to enter in the QR code number. We're going to log in. And if I'm going to set this up for a customer and they only have one recorder, I'm going to use the connect.specotech.cloud 10 times before I use CMS. Just because I get full access into the recorder, as you can see here. But for that customer, all I'm going to do is come over here and I'm going to bookmark this tab. I'm going to name it as recorder and I'm going to be done with it. And then that way, anytime they want to log into it, they're going to hit that bookmark and the password will be saved once they select that recorder. And even the recorder, if they select it, it'll give them all the recorders that they've entered in there. So connect.specotech.cloud is going to be my primary way for single site customers to access their recorders. Or local IP log into customer's computer. And what I mean by this is, let's see what this local IP address is. And I don't think I'm actually on this same network. Let's see. 1.230. So it's just a matter of me coming into my. You'll see here that I can access this recorder directly from my local network. And it's very important to remember that if you have customers who are utilizing or accessing recorders directly from the site, and it is a much better use of bandwidth to hit the recorder directly and log in live and then come set them up a favorites for that local connection. That's always my go-to if there's live access to the site and you're not wanting to use CMS. You'll see local access using a local IP address here. Close out of that using connect.specotech.cloud here. And then also if we wanted to utilize our dashboard, you'll see that the dashboard, for those that aren't familiar with this, we've done webinars on it. Dashboard is our hot ticket item right now, allows you to log all your recorders into a single database or this single platform here. When I want to get to that same recorder, I can simply select it. I've already entered in the login information, so it knows it, and it can also do healthcare checks, tells me that there's firmware versions updated. I can push firmware updates to certain. It's coming very quick down the pipeline as far as being fully released, very exciting. But you'll see here that I can utilize my dashboard and also get directly into that same recorder as well too. So 3 to 4 different ways of accessing sites. So if we ever had to access a site through the dashboard, I had a camera acting up, I'm going to go into PoE settings. I'm going to turn on and off that camera remotely, not have to roll the truck out. So there's a lot of things that we can do by utilizing our recorders and remoting into them to try to solve a lot of your service problems. But obviously everybody knows we don't have problems anyway, right? So we'll just say I play and joke a lot, but no, guys, what we're doing, what our direction is for Speco is we're taking these products that we see you need. The dashboard was one of them. Remote management, that includes in the dashboard. You're going to start seeing a lot of our access control get integrated into the dashboard as well, and some exciting things. We've just hired a new product manager for our access control line. He's got 10, 12, 15 years of experience. Very exciting news. And for any of those that are big access people, this is a great news for Speco and great news for our training department. We're doing a lot of things to give you. We also we can tell there's 4 on this webinar. That means we have that kind of participation every week. That means you're getting something from it. I learn when you learn, and I learn every day. So if you run into things out in the field you're having problems with, reach out to us. If you want to see webinars on things you haven't seen yet or you don't see available, let us know. If you have questions about products, let us know. We're very excited about supporting you. So, the last step here before I get on my tangent of goodbyes is we're going to demo CMS and or remote logging the customer. However, we gave them access to it. And the beautiful thing for you is that you're not demoing on a different platform. It's the exact same setup, just a little bit different screen layout. So once you learn one of the products with us, once you learn how to program our LPR, once you learn how to program our basic analytic, you know how to program every analytic from Speco. So some very exciting new products coming out down the pipeline too. So if anybody has any questions, I'm going to stay on here for the next 2 or 3 minutes. We appreciate everybody that jumped on. And I will answer some questions now. How are you getting that to work in Chrome? When I tried logging into the Connect website, it said I needed to be done in IE or Edge compatibility. So what I would assume is that your recorder is not in running the new 1.47 version firmware. So with that new 1.47, it made it plugin-less. So now you can utilize Google Chrome if you're running the 1.47 version firmware. When you first run that for the first time, let's see if I can pull up a recorder here. When you first run it for the first time, if you're only able to see 4 cameras on your screen, you're going to see a link right here that says download plugin. Download that plugin, and then that'll give you full access to, up to 1632 channels. Great question. Let's see if we got any more. Thank you, Darren. We appreciate you. So before I lose my voice, I'm going to hop on here for the next few minutes. And if anybody has any questions, pop on. This webinar will be available for anybody. If you want to send it out, we highly appreciate it. Give us your praises if you enjoyed it. If you saw anything you wanted to make better, definitely let us know. We're open to all opinions. So again, guys, thank you, and we will see you all next week.